he sees the drive towards what he called a more aggressive form of secularism. And there was another reference to the atheist extremism of the 20th century. And clearly there wanting to sound a warning sign that people needed to be maybe wary of these forces, in his view, because they undermined the Christian foundations of our country. I think that's the clear message from the Pope today. They're making their way towards that state reception now in the grounds of Holyrood, accompanied there by the Queen and by the Duke of Edinburgh, and now being presented to that first group of guests. We can just about see Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor there, the former Archbishop of Westminster, and just to his right, the current Archgovernment, and took over those duties from Jim Murphy. That is David Amess, who is another prominent parliamentarian who is a contact with the Holy See, between Westminster and the Holy See.
Hang on, Colette.
So clearly a first group presentation here, which is pretty heavy on the political guests, and that of course reflects the fact that this is in effect a state visit, as we've been saying. Presentations continue, and among them too Mohammed Shaiz Raza, Chairman of the Mosques and Imams National Advisory Board, and Bhai Sahib Mohinder Singh, who's Chairman of the British Sikh Consultative Forum. Now being presented to Pope Benedict there.
I'm sorry, sir. On the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry.
A bit of a scrum inside the marquee there, but Pope being presented to representatives of all kinds of faith groups in Scotland and the United Kingdom.
Thank you. Come back with me.
Among them, of course, representatives too of other Christian churches. We've got and representatives of the Jewish community too. And as we look at these images now and just see the Holy Father being greeted there by some of the other guests, let me just bring in Father Jerry, because it was interesting in the sense that, you know, we were talking earlier, Jerry, about a strong message. Mm-hmm. That wasn't just a bland word of welcome and thanks, was it really? He had something to say.
No, he did. I mean, I think the Queen was pointing out the positive message of what the Church and its involvement throughout the world and working with the poor, the destitute, and places where the Church is really needed. And I think the Pope then came back to echo that message in the sense of challenging us all to work for the common good and to work for closer and stronger bonds together, equality. And you're right, Hugh, I mean, pointing out to us that there is the danger that our society can move away into a more secularist mode than what we are. And the last census of this country, Hugh, reminded us that 70% of the people in our country claim to be Christian, and therefore we need to accept his message, listen to his message, and hopefully that challenge will resonate with many people in our country and inspire us to bigger and greater things together. And I think that's what they're both saying, that if we're united, we can do much more than if we're divided.
Let's just extend that, Jerry, slightly, because as you know, yesterday the big news story was that one of the Pope's advisors, no longer coming on the visit, he'd made some rather unflattering remarks about England specifically, but there was another phrase in Cardinal Casper's remarks where he talked about aggressive atheism. I have to say that does chime in with what the Pope was saying today himself.
It does, Hugh, and I mean, yesterday's
previous mistake. So perhaps he's taken note of of the misunderstanding perhaps yesterday, and is going out of his way to praise what we fundamentally stand for, but also to highlight that theme about secularism. I mean, it's been very clear that's one of his big themes as Pope. It's what he wants to do in Europe, it's what he wants to counter in Europe, and here he is flagging it up at the very beginning of the visit. I don't think we should take it as a negative thing. Actually, I think a lot of people would agree with it. A lot of people who have no religion at all, who aren't churchgoers, do worry about how much we're throwing away our tradition and this kind of me, whatever suits me society. I think that's a message that resonates far beyond the Catholic community.
Deborah, I'm just looking at, I just have a copy now of the Pope's remarks. Your government and people are the shapers of ideas that still have an impact far beyond the British Isles, and this places upon them a particular duty to act wisely for the common good. As Peter was saying, yes, that was praise and that was encouragement, but it was tempered with a very clear warning.
Yes, it was, and also in that speech, Hugh, Pope Benedict has just said, let us never forget how the exclusion of God, religion and virtue from public life is not a good thing. And I think that is clearly the message that we're hearing. It comes through in a variety of ways in that first address from the Holy Father. He has also held up examples of virtuous people who lived also a life of faith, and so it's about getting that balance, isn't it? Here has what has gone before, but actually here also is a word of warning about the direction perhaps he sees us going as a society.
Let's pause there for a second, because now that we're just having a look at these images of the latest presentations to Pope Benedict. I mentioned a short while ago that there are representatives here of all the faith communities in Britain. These clearly are another group of politicians and indeed church officials. But my colleague Emily Buchanan is there somewhere in the throng, and Emily's, I hope, going to be talking now. She's just outside, actually, and she's now talking to some of those who've been involved. Emily.
Yes, we're here on the lawn with all the other guests mingling in the tent, hoping to talk to the Pope. And I have with me here Bhai Sahib. He's the chairman of the British Sikh Consultative Forum, one of the many representatives here of other faiths. Tell me, what did you make of the Pope's presence here today? I mean, do you feel he's speaking beyond the Catholic constituency?
Definitely he is. I firmly believe that in the 21st century, to be religious is to be interreligious. Global has become local, local is global, and we have a shared responsibility. And as long as there is no peace between religions, there can be no peace. So it is very important that we are able to respect faiths.
Well, certainly that was the message both from the Queen and the Pope, that it's the need to cooperate rather than to increase conflict.
That is true. You see, coexistence is very important. We have become a global village, and the need for respecting and loving diversity is important.
And tell me, did the Pope say a few words to you personally?
Yes, he did, because I have met him once or twice before. I have been to the Vatican, and I was very happy and honored and privileged to meet him.
And do you find him very different from perhaps the media image of him as a very stern, so-called Rottweiler?
Well, media sometimes can exaggerate things. I think people of faith are people of faith. It doesn't matter what faith you belong to, and they have values.
And what do you hope his message will be as he talks to the wider British community?
I think to try and instill values within our communities, to try and achieve peace, which is so important. Individual peace, peace within the communities, and international and global peace. That is what the message is going to be.
Bhai Sahib, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, most welcome. Thank you.
Emily, thank you very much, and to your guests too. Our first word with some of those who've been presented to the Pope at this state reception at the Palace of Holyrood today. This follows